If you're just looking at maintaining the muscle that you have, recent research suggests that you need 1 to 2 hard working sets per week per body part. So in theory, if you're like, hey, I'm not looking at growing my chest, I just want to maintain what I have, you could come in and do 2 sets of incline press to failure and you're good. You're going to maintain. Today we are doing a push session, so chest and shoulders. It's going to look a little bit random if you don't have the context of what my current training block looks like. So this is actually the second push session of the week. And the idea here is 3 chest exercises, a shoulder exercise, a tricep exercise, but maximum stimulus, minimal fatigue, because I've done kind of most of my heavy movements earlier on in the week. Just in the context of what the training block's about, I am trying to specifically bring up clavicular fibers of the chest, as well as my shoulders. For that classic look, I think you can never have shoulders that are wide enough. I don't think you can ever have an upper chest which is thick enough. So that's where a lot of the volume during this training block is going to. We have a new face, Lindile. Let me actually just take off my microphone. There we go. Quickly introduce yourself. Tell us what you're about.
There we go. Hi guys, my name is Lindile. I'm from Bloemfontein. So I'm a SSA ambassador with Matt here. Just came in to learn a few training techniques and maybe see if I can absorb a few information from him and just learn.
And be humble, it's also a reality TV star.
Okay.
And then Theuns, we all know and love the bull. The reason why Theuns is here today is because we're kind of already planning ahead for his next competition season, and he's just gone through a short-ish mini cut, tidied up really nicely, basically just as a platform to move him into his next building phase. But going through that mini cut and then getting an idea of what he looks like at a slightly leaner point, it's beneficial because you can start to see which body parts needs improvement. And basically, I just suggested to him yesterday, chest is the one area that I feel like we really need to bring up, which ties into what I'm doing. So the idea would be to train these chest sessions together at least once every couple of weeks. The heavy movers, I'll do like the incline, hammer strength type incline press, flat dumbbell press, incline cable press. Here, just because I feel like this is kind of an easier movement, I'll go with this because obviously you fatigued yourself like 2 days ago. So you don't want to be doing anything crazy fatiguing. So you want good stimulus, low fatigue, and just shooting for is essentially like extra volume for that body part. All right. So we'll do like 3 working sets here. We'll do like a superset on cable flies and stretch push-ups, and then dips as our kind of tricep mover, but we'll also get some chest volume there. And then we'll finish off with the delt movement. No, we'll just pin load this because I do want to stay in the higher end of the rep range. Yeah. I don't know if you've used this before, but you can change these handles so they're like that. But I like to have them like that, so you get that kind of deeper stretch at the bottom, yeah. Okay, so as usual, we'll do 2 warm-up sets, a feeder set, which will be at your top working weight, and then into our working sets. So this really try and arch your back, so you're getting that big chest and you get a deep stretch at the bottom. Yeah. can cut it there as a warm-up. What I really do like about this machine is that even though the handles are fixed, you can just adjust the seat as to whether you want it to be an incline or a flat press. Big chest, big stretch. Hold the stretch for a minute. There we go. What's also cool, if you saw that, is that unlike some of these other press machines, these handles actually converge. So you do actually get into a little bit of a more kind of shortened position in the top end. So you can see here how like I'm making my chest really big so that I can exaggerate that stretch as much as possible and then keeping it in that position through the entire range of motion. So I think you're probably going to get a deeper stretch on your chest if you can keep your elbows at this 90-degree angle, but it's going to be individually dependent, because if you get shoulder pain by doing that, then try and tuck your elbows. There's a study that came out this year. It's only one study, but they were comparing people that are doing flat bench press versus incline bench press. And it was done with like students that were experienced weight trainers. So it wasn't like newbies or anything like that. The people that did only incline bench press experienced similar growth between their clavicular, sternal, uncostal fibers. The people that were only doing flat bench press only saw growth in their sternal and costal fibers. So basically what they're saying is that incline bench is going to be hitting all three portions of the pec equally. So if you're going to bias your chest training towards anything, make it incline. There we go. So you'll see Theuns has this little tendency to, as he's pushing up, he'll do this. He wants to look down, and that makes his chest cave in, and then that makes his press a lot more shoulder dominant. So that's why I'm trying to cue him to lift his chest up, extend that spine, and really focus on that big stretch. So remember I was telling you in that one, I think Joel was shooting that day, the one video we did with that incline press, and I was like, only go up 75% of the way, because the tension will drop off at the top end. Because this is a cable and it's pin loaded, your tension is going to be pretty much equal throughout. So here you can go to almost full lockout. Nice. Big stretch, big stretch. Yeah, that is cool. I can't wait for their new kind of stringers and tanks to come out. I obviously got their t-shirts and the joggers and all that, but no stringers or tanks yet. Okay, now these next ones are going to be partials, but you don't change the way you're doing it. Just the same level of control with the pause in the bottom, yes. There we go, fuck yes. Okay. All right, so if you're looking at the kind of exercise selections I'm choosing here, context has to be taken into account. So if chest is not a big emphasis for you during a specific training block, let's look at volume landmarks, and you might only be doing 8 or 10 working sets per week. A decline fly or a decline press is probably not something that I would add into the equation, just because your return on investment is not going to be massive. But when chest is an emphasis for you, and looking at my current training block, looking at somewhere between 15 to 18 working sets for chest per week over either 2 or 3 sessions. And predominantly we're doing incline movements. We're doing a decent amount of flat movements. Those kind of, costal fibers aren't getting a lot of direct attention. So when you have that much volume, it does make sense to add in one decline variation. And what I particularly like about this piece is that it just facilitates a really, really big stretch at the top of the movement. So we're going to superset this with stretch push-ups. And once again, the idea of this session is driving a good amount of stimulus, extra volume, but movements that are not going to be contributing towards a lot of fatigue. So recovery demands are not going to be insane. All right, so like I was just explaining now, so this is essentially a decline movement. Now those kind of like costal fibers, they don't really get a lot of direct work, but you are going to activate them even with incline presses, with flat presses. So if chest isn't a huge emphasis for you, you probably shouldn't add in a decline variation to what you're doing. But for me, my chest volume for the week now is like 18 sets. So if you're doing 17 sets between either an incline or a flat, you have the bandwidth, you have the runway to add in a decline variation. And then we're going to superset this with stretch push-ups. So body weight movement, good amounts of stimulus, but not crazy amounts of fatigue because you just can't load it. Okay. And to exaggerate the stretch here, try not to stay upright. You actually, this original piece of equipment, which I think is it's an Arsenal strength piece of equipment. It actually has a little headrest here that you rest your head on. So the idea is that you actually want to be bent over like this, like in a hip hinge, so you can get like a really big stretch. Whereas if I'm up here, I'm not stretched, right? Here I'm stretched. So as long as you can get a good assessment from one warm-up set, what would be a reasonable working weight for you, then go straight into your working weight. Like if you think about it, because we pushed those presses pretty hard, we did 3 sets, we took it to failure, you did partials at the end. Do you really need more? Do you need more warm-up sets? Not really. It's more just assessing what is going to be the correct working weight for this to get maximal stimulus. And then we're going to do a set of this. Once we get into our working sets, we're going to do a set of this and then move straight into the stretch push-ups. And we'll do stretch push-ups to failure. 29th of July, yeah. That's where I turned pro at that show. So I'm using it as a little challenge to myself because we're going away in December to the Secrets of Summer Festival in Cape Town. So like him and his chick, my wife, I don't know if you know Lindile. You should follow him. It's like, dude, this kid one day will make it to the Olympia, I promise you. Yeah, Welsh, Craig, who's another videographer that I use in a very close friend. He's not, he's going to be in the UK, but a whole bunch of us are going to this festival. And I'm like using it as a challenge for myself to see if I can stay in decent shape by the time we go to Cape Town.
When is it?
It's for New Year's. So end of December, beginning of Jan. That's the one shit thing about push-ups is like when you hit failure, you still fucking have to push yourself up. Going outside in my vest, but like all my fucking vascularity disappeared. Yeah. Ugh. 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 Oh. Whew. Ooh. Motherfucker. So because you're holding a handle, your brain wants to think, bring your hands together, where in reality, it has nothing to do with your hands. You're just holding it as an implement. You want your bicep to come into your chest. Yes. That's a fully shortened chest here. Not that. You see, my chest is not contracting there. My chest is contracting there. So that's why like a machine like that, like the pressing machine that we did, you press up and it converges to bring the bicep into the chest. Okay, now just go into that deep stretch and just 20-30% of the way down. Up, down. You know, you're trying to put these on and it's like elastic.
I've never used those apps. Never used any sleeves.
Bro, you're from the farm. You don't need to use sleeves. You don't need to use wraps. That's what happens when you're from the farm, bro. You don't need to use any of that shit. All right, so we're only going to do a two supersets, so essentially 4 working sets. And if you think about it, we did 3 there. So that's 7 working sets for chest within this workout already. In my first session, I did 8 working sets, so that's 15. Now we're going to do dips. Now the argument about dips is it a tricep exercise, is it a chest exercise? So what I do is let's say I do 2 working sets for dips, I'll attribute 1 set of volume towards triceps and 1 set of volume towards chest. And I calculate my volume landmarks that way. All right, so we're moving on to dips now. It's a little bit of a weird one. Like a lot of people are going to be pro dips, a lot are going to be anti dips. I understand both sides of the equation. I think if these are done right, what's great about them is that you can really, really load the lengthened position, which as I keep talking about is very, very important. I think that it has a wide array of carryover. So you get a good like shoulder activation, you get good tricep activation, you get good chest activation. The one issue with it is that its loadability is poor. So if you want to be progressing at it, you either need to accrue a lot of reps over time, or you need to be using one of those dipping belts, which is awkward and it's inconvenient. That is why I tend to add it at the end of my session. So you're kind of already fatigued, and then your ability to progress on it can primarily just be based on rep accumulation. So you can see what I mean there, like getting 12, 13 reps after doing a whole bunch of other chest volume. If I had to do that in the beginning of the workout, you'd be doing like 30 reps. That lean forward is good. Go deeper, as deep as you can go, big stretch, and then hold it. And then up, yes. Hold the stretch, up. There we go. Very nice. So what I want you to do is put your feet straight and slightly in front of you, but keep that lean forward. Yeah. So when you put your feet back, it tilts your body like this. It's gonna make it a little bit more chest focused. When you put your feet back, so when you do it like this, it's gonna make it a little bit more chest focused. When you put your feet back, it's gonna make it a little bit more tricep focused. How many you got, T? 100 kilos by 10 isn't bad. Back then, like when cable stacks weren't really adjustable. So you either had the top or you had the bottom. You didn't have the ability to move it up or down. So he was so forward thinking that he was like, okay, well, I don't know how he even knew this then because the data wasn't out then, but all right, we want to work our medial delt by making the lengthened position as heavy as possible. So he taught me this exercise. I'll show it to you now. Without using a cable, it's very challenging, but you can do it. But it's the only way we can really kind of bias the length and position with a dumbbell. So you'll set yourself up on a bench like this.
3, 2, 1.
Completely straight, but bring it across your body. So your starting position wants to be here, and then you're bringing it up here. There you go. So if anyone saw that reel that I posted a couple months ago about essentially shortchanging your shoulder development if you're using dumbbells and not cables, and your thought was, bitch, I don't have cables, I'm working in a home gym, or sometimes the cable stack is taken, this would be the viable alternative to it. And I would say outside of maybe just a little lack of stability, it's just as good. So my first push session, I do 4 sets for side, 3 sets for rear. Then on my delt and arm session, I do 3 sets for side, 3 sets for rear. And then here I do 2, which is kind of like some anterior, some medial, some posterior. So if you look at it, it's kind of like 4, 7, 6, 13, 15 to 16 sets for shoulders per week. Yeah. Shoulders or in general? So right now 6, but that's not gonna last for super long because my overall volume landmarks aren't super high. I'm kind of using the 6th day as kind of a test run for some new movements that I may want to include in the next training block. Because my last training block, so basically the entirety of my off season and the entirety of my prep, it was the exact same training block. During the off season, because I was progressing at those movements, and if you're just trying to change movements for, I don't know, boredom's sake, you're shortchanging yourself in terms of progress. If you're progressing and you're making improvements, you want to keep your movements the same. And then during prep, you don't want to be changing movements because you're going to be predisposed to injury if you're already accumulating fatigue. So right now, where I feel like my needs are very similar with very minor tweaks, like I probably would want to put a little bit more emphasis on my chest and shoulders than I did in my last training block. The 6th training day, which is essentially this one. So this is coming in day 4 of the week, but it is essentially the ancillary day of training. I'm trying some different movement patterns to see, okay, what's moving well? What am I improving on? What do I have a good connection with? What am I going to include in my training block for kind of the foreseeable future? There's no best splits. It's going to be based on like if we're talking about a bodybuilder, it's going to be based on the needs for your physique. Like, are you advanced enough to be picking specific body parts that need direct work? And then basically finding the most conducive way to divvy out volume accordingly across the course of the week for each respective body part. So the split doesn't really matter. The way that you think about the split is it's just a means to facilitate adequate volume for the body parts for each body part in a relevant manner. That's really how you have to think of it. So the split isn't the defining feature. That's putting the cart before the horse. What you want to do is go, okay, in this training block, these are the body parts that I want to bring up. This is how much volume I want to attribute to those. This is how much volume I want to attribute to my other body parts, which maybe are kind of middle of the road, and I'm just looking at, maintaining or, moderate volume, and then build your split based on that. So if you're trying to do it the other way around and you're going, this is the best split, I'm trying to fit what I need within that split, you're actually putting the cart before the horse. 2 working sets per week. 2 sets per week to maintain. If you're just looking at maintaining the muscle that you have, recent research suggests that you need 1 to 2 hard working sets per week per body part. So in theory, if you're like, hey, I'm not looking at growing my chest, I just want to maintain what I have, you could come in and do 2 sets of incline press to failure and you're good. You're going to maintain. All right, guys, the session is done. It was an awesome session with the boys. Wrapped up about 9 sets for chests, around a good 2 to 3 sets for shoulders, and a couple of kind of ancillary volume sets for triceps. Really enjoyed it. But guys, if you like this kind of content, I think this was probably the most explanatory training session that I've had, maybe the most educational one. If you like content like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, or I will come to your house. I'm